Good afternoon, everyone. We're just gonna give it a moment so that the waiting room can clear. When you enter, just make sure you're muted.
This sucks. 5 bathrooms.
We'll just give it another second. Let's start it. All right, good afternoon. This is a hearing before the Boston Cannabis Board, the BCB. Today is December 13th, 2023. Today's hearing is being conducted pursuant to certain temporary amendments to the open meeting law. This is what allows us to meet virtually. This hearing is being recorded and will be posted to the City of Boston's website. Before I review some procedural matters, I will introduce Chairwoman Kathleen Joyce.
Good afternoon. My name is Kathleen Joyce. I am the chair of the Boston Cannabis Board, and today I'm pleased to be joined by my fellow commissioners, Commissioner Lisa Holmes, Commissioner Gabriel Camacho, Commissioner John Smith, and I would like to introduce our new commissioner who is joining us for the first time today, Commissioner Ramon Soto.
Thank you, Chairwoman Joyce. My name is Jasmine Went, and I am the Cannabis Board Manager. Today, we are holding both the licensed premise inspection and transactional hearing. We will begin with the licensed premise inspection. I will call each item in the order in which it appears on the agenda. I will then ask who is present on behalf of the licensee, the Boston Police Department, and whether there are any other individuals with personal knowledge of the alleged incident. I will then swear in all parties. After that, the police report will be read into the record. The licensee or their representative will have the opportunity to make a brief statement, followed by questions from the commissioners. Again, all testimony will be limited to personal knowledge of the alleged. Again, if everyone can make sure they're muted, I'm getting some feedback. The first item we have, the licensee is Pure Oasis LLC, Pure Oasis. The license premise is 85 Devonshire Street downtown. The license type is a retail recreational cannabis dispensary license. The manager of record is Kobe Evans. The date of the incident is 11/2/2023. The alleged offense/incident is sale of pre-rolled and single-use smokable cannabis products in violation of Board's Rule 1.01B and conditions on the licensee's recreational license. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Kobe Evans.
Alexis Kachuk.
Thank you. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department? I don't see him. I don't think we have anyone from the police department on. Okay. No problem. Danny, am I able to read the police report? Or?
Yeah, I'd like to move forward so we can have a discussion about the issue.
So I'll read it into the record.
Okay.
All right, can Kobe and Alexis please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Thank you. All right, let me pull up the police report because I didn't have it. Okay. On Thursday, November 2nd, 2023, Lieutenant Detective Adrian Troy and Detective Eddie Hernandez, assigned to the BPD Licensed Premise Unit, responded to Pure Oasis located at 85 Devonshire Street. Detectives were there to speak to the staff regarding a complaint that had been received regarding the establishment's sale of pre-rolled or single-use smokable cannabis products. This would be in violation of a condition on their license. While inside the establishment, detectives observed a counter display of single-rolled marijuana cigarettes for sale and advertisements of pre-rolled cannabis cigarettes bundle deals. Detectives were also aware that the establishment's website also offers single pre-rolled marijuana cigarettes for sale at the specific location. Detectives spoke to the person in charge, Mr. Greg Dow, who stated that he was unaware of these restrictions on the premises license. As a result, what detectives observed, Lieutenant Detective Troy issued premise license violation 21061 for sale of pre-rolled or single-use smokable cannabis products in violation of their marijuana retail license. Mr. Dell signed and accepted the notice. That is the record. Would the licensee or their representative like to make a statement?
At this time, I think that we've sent several emails to the board regarding this matter. I'm not sure how much more attention or information we can lend to it. I know as of last week, we sent a more recent email, and if you have any questions, we can go over that email, but I think that email kind of spoke to the issues.
If you could just give a brief, just because for the record, the public.
Sure.
Yeah, and then just one quick follow-up before he gives that intro. The applicant owner has made steps to correct the terms that triggered this violation. I think he'll tell you about those.
Okay, so this is a violation hearing. I am not interested at this time to talk about the policy behind the condition on the license. I want to talk about the violation.
Yeah, so again, I think that my statement was going more into the background. So, you know, the violation spoke for itself. I guess I can answer questions about the violation and not go into the history of things. So,
Okay,
not
I do
sure how
have
you
some,
wanna
I do
proceed.
have some questions.
Sure.
It's a fact. I can't even tell you how many complaints we've had about the fact that you do sell pre-rolls.
Yes.
It's come to my knowledge, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that you have since day one always sold pre-rolls.
Correct.
You never.
I think for the first 2 weeks, I think that when we originally opened, we thought that it would be a boon to have the restriction. We thought that it would add to the amount of kind of revenue we would receive. And then as we open and, you know, we just didn't see the foot traffic.
Okay, but as a business owner who has a license from the city, and that license has restrictions, you just decided on your own to not abide by the restriction?
Yes, as a business decision, correct, yes.
Okay. And you never even posted the correct license, is from what I understand, right? You posted your temporary license so that your staff didn't even know.
That might have just been, no, that might have been an oversight. That wasn't deliberate.
And you were notified by the board that we wanted you to
Correct.
stop selling them, and you never stopped selling them?
Correct.
Are you selling them now?
We are.
Do you intend to continue to sell them?
I think that, you know, in talking with our attorney, our hope was that we would get to the point where the CCC would review our HCA. I spoke with the CCC. They are not at a place where they are reviewing HCAs. And so
we talked to them too. We did talk to them too.
Yeah. And so did they give any indication about the review of HCAs, or did they just defer to you guys?
We asked them what they do about violations like this. And when they learned that this was a condition of your approval, they said they would take a closer look at it.
Okay. So again, I think I don't want to say we're both in the same situation, but I do want the CCC to look at this very unique situation because they do have oversight, and I don't know if you're intimating that
I'm intimating that we're bored. We've spent a lot of time dealing with complaints about your location, and that you're a business person and you have never abided by the rules and the conditions of your license. That's what I'm talking about.
Correct.
This was a private agreement. Your approval was conditioned upon the bid's understanding of those conditions, and you agreed to them to get their support. So right now I'm faced with a violation, and you're telling me on the record under oath that you don't intend to abide by it.
I'm not saying that. I've said that we violated the agreement in the past. I'm not saying that we intend to do it going forward.
Okay, Commissioner Holmes, Commissioner Smith, I'll let you guys go first if you have any questions.
It's pretty cut and dry with me. Your license states you're not supposed to sell them. You're selling them in violation. And I actually don't hear a bit of remorse in your voice. So that goes a long way.
This is Commissioner Camacho. And you are still selling them now, even
We
as
are.
we have this hearing.
We are.
Thank you.
Commissioner Smith?
Thanks, Jasmine. So I guess my only question is going to be why? I mean, there were, I mean, I think the license is very clear. I think there's a, no pre-roll. So basically, you're sort of openly saying we're doing this. I guess my question is why? If you're just
For a number of
about
reasons. That's a good question. I think that, first and foremost is that pre-rolls are a big function of what consumers purchase. And so it ends up being, a big part of our sales day in and day out. There's still a gap between the revenue that we generate in the day and, what our overhead and what it costs to survive as a business. And so from a business's decision, it keeps us afloat. It helps kind of collapse the space between being, losing a lot of money and losing a little money. I think that's one of the bigger indications of why we do it. I think secondly, it's a necessity versus, something that we choose to do out of contempt. And then the other part of it is that I think that we're probably one of the only locally owned dispensaries that have this kind of restrictions. When we entered into the agreement, there were only one dispensary open in downtown. And our expectation was that it would create a level playing field where Pure Oasis and the Cannabis would be the two dispensaries with these restrictions. It would be a level playing field. And to our surprise, the board approved 5 additional dispensaries. All those other 5 don't have these restrictions. And so it becomes very painful when someone walks in the door, finds out that they can't even buy a pre-roll, and they leave and they go across the street to Apex and, they're able to purchase the same product across the street. Coupled with the fact of talking to the head of the bid, and he made it very clear that this wasn't about public safety. This wasn't about public health. This wasn't about a nuisance. It wasn't about loitering. This was his personal belief that cannabis should have never been legalized. And this was his way to curb access.
So there's no reasonable expectation for us as the board to expect that you will keep selling this.
I think that it encroaches on a bigger issue in terms of, municipalities and the language that they insert into these kind of standardized HCAs.
I just want to jump in. We did not put this language in there. You voluntarily signed this. We did not.
That was the only.
We did
That
not
was the only. That
twist
was the
your
only
arm.
way that
You
we
signed
could
this with the bid. And that's one thing I want to make very clear for the public record. The Boston Cannabis Board did not negotiate those agreements with you, those conditions with you. And we relayed that to the CCC. We told them that this was something you voluntarily signed. And I think that made a difference to the CCC.
The only way that we could open downtown was to get the kind of to
get your neighborhood group, to get that area's support. That's a separate issue. We, as the regulatory authority, did not force you to sign that HCA. We did not force you to sign that condition. That's what you did in order to open up second in that area, I think. I don't know the number.
Yeah, so
it was probably a race to open first, and you probably were willing to do whatever they asked. But my question is, did you ever intend?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
But you did it for 2 weeks, you said, and I'm not even sure you did, because I heard you did. You never did.
Again, not seeing the traffic, seeing our revenue numbers not being there, and then literally seeing a customer come in frustrated that they couldn't buy a pre-roll and head right out the door across to another dispensary. It was a business decision. How are we going to stay alive? How are we going to stay afloat? We're competing with companies that have there's only Boston, I believe, is the only city in the whole state that issues these kind of restrictions. We're competing with a company called Patriot Care, Columbia Care, the Cannabis. They have 95 dispensaries across the country, dozens of cultivation facilities. They can come up with a substitute. They have a substitute product in replace of a pre-roll. And they're able to offer these because they're vertically integrated. They grow their own product. They can go to their grow houses, say, okay, make me up a batch of these substitute pre-roll products. We can't do that. We're locally owned, we're independent. We have to search around for something that functionally doesn't exist.
So thank you for that, Kobe. I'll just say as the regulatory board for the city of Boston, I guess I'll go back to my question and say, so you're saying that we cannot reasonably expect that you guys are going to stop selling pre-rolls.
No, I'm not saying that. No, I'm not saying that.
So are you all going to stop based on
I think
how your license was issued?
I think that at some point we have to come to some sort of resolution of this, and whether it means we try and find a solution, which I think we're close to finding an alternative to selling pre-rolls. I think that is reasonable, that is feasible.
Explain the alternative, and when is this going to happen?
So again, you have a pre-roll, and I'm going to assume that everyone knows what a pre-roll is, and so a pre-roll, is a gram of cannabis, and so what you have to try and do is to find, someone that will make up something that doesn't necessarily exist. Is that it's like 2 or 3 grams of a product in a container, and then you can sell that to someone, as long as it meets the requirements of the restriction. But no, this does not exist. This problem does not exist anywhere else in Massachusetts. So there is no one that makes a solution for this product for someone like Pure Oasis to go out and say, okay, give me an alternative to a pre-roll. They're like, what do you mean? And so we have to go out and try and find someone to supply us with these solutions that the cannabis can create in-house. We have to go out and buy from someone. So it is possible to solve for this, yes.
But you're waiting until you find someone who can give this alternative product.
No,
and in the meantime, you're going to continue to sell pre-rolls.
No, that's again, I'm not saying that we will continue to flout this regulation. It is possible, and we are working, and we do think we have a solution for an alternative product to the pre-roll. I have tasked my team with finding the solution, and we think we have a solution, and that we can hopefully implement that in the next week or so.
So in the foreseeable future, you will continue to sell pre-rolls?
Again, I am not here to agitate the situation anymore, to say that we're here to flout the law. What we're trying to do is to stay afloat in a situation where we're paying $30,000, $40,000 a month in rent, payroll for 20 people. I can't afford to fund this operation in an environment where we're losing money. So it's how do you shut us down, we shut us down. It probably does us a favor because we're not losing money at that point. But we put people out of work, or we put people out of, we have to find a solution. Excuse me.
Chair Joyce, did you have an additional comment?
I do, but I first want to defer to Commissioner Soto. Do you have any comments?
Not at this time.
Mr. Evans, we vote next Wednesday. Would you please submit to the board? I want to see your revenue numbers for these pre-rolls and single-use smokable products that you've had since you've been open. If you're making an economic argument, I want to see how much it's helping you meet your bottom line. To me, it's a condition of the license, but I am open to these arguments, but I want to see those numbers.
Absolutely.
Before we vote.
Mr. Nichols from the bid is on. I would like to say something. Let's see.
Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you, board.
Do you mind just raising your right hand?
Oh, sure.
Do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. So, we're disappointed to be here today in this capacity, as this is a business that we'd like to see succeed downtown. It's our view that the business has at no time since the awarding of their preliminary license in June and the full license in July and as of at least the date of this violation, that the business has failed to comply with the license restrictions that the business committed to in order to receive its license to operate a business in the downtown Boston Business Improvement District. Pursuant to a request of the licensing board from the July hearing, and also based on a conversation with the Mayor's Office of Economic Opportunity and Inclusion, rooted in how the bid could attempt to help this business, the bid met with the business owner and his attorney in late July about establishing a path towards relaxing or reducing some of the license restrictions. Importantly, the bid was clear that the prohibition of the sale of pre-rolled products was important and unlikely to change for policy reasons, but that other restrictions were of the type where we felt we could work with the business to amend the agreement in order to support the likely success of this business. We did note that compliance with all existing restrictions was the sole condition precedent to continuing a conversation about relaxing the other restrictions. Unfortunately, that follow-up conversation has not been possible given the consistent flagrant violation of the existing license agreement, as you've heard about today. The business owner's testimony today that the bid's stance is based on personal views of cannabis is inaccurate and fabricated. The bid would be happy to speak to our broad policy-focused concern about pre-rolls, but the business owner has shown an unwillingness to have a conversation focused on mutual respect and good faith dealing, which has also been shown to the licensing board itself today. And we unfortunately ask that the BCB uses its best judgment on a business that is choosing to willfully violate the very rules they committed to in condition of operating their business.
Is there any follow-up questions for Mr. Nichols, Mr. Evans, or his representative?
Mr. Nichols, what are the broad policy concerns about pre-roll?
Right, the business owner spoke to them today, right? Pre-rolls specifically allow for the immediate consumption of the product in a physical proximate area to the store, leading to trash, smoke, impacts on others. We're seeking to create a family-friendly environment in the downtown. There are other consumable products, other consumable cannabis products, gummies and just about everything else, things that are adjusted that don't have that same impact, that don't contribute to immediate trash in the area and impacts on children, families, and others enjoying the downtown area. It's been consistent over time that the sale of pre-rolls here and in other places has a negative impact on the quality of life that's experienced by those living downtown, living or working, visiting the downtown, and we believe a well-founded, concern with the ongoing sale of pre-rolls. As recently as yesterday, I walked down the street adjacent to this business and observed discarded trash from pre-rolled product on the streets of our downtown, frustrating the bid's overall work to make this a clean, safe, habitable neighborhood for everybody that might visit.
Do you find the same problems with the folks who are situated at or close to downtown? That there's an inhospitable environment?
Candidly, I probably don't spend a lot of time outside the bid district, but for sort of where I live, I'm a resident of the city of Boston as well. I don't believe I have cannabis establishments sort of proximate to where I live.
But there are other ones close to downtown, right?
Right. I mean, we're certainly aware of other cannabis establishments downtown. I'm not here to make a judgment on the cleanliness and condition of those other neighborhoods and whether it's being directly impacted by their cannabis establishments. The bid district was formed to address the challenges of downtown Boston, and one of the ways in which we do that is we employ 45 street-based ambassadors who hand clean the neighborhood each day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, to make this part of the city, a 100-acre, 34-block area of our city, more welcoming to both our own residents and those that might spend time and visit here. So I can only really speak to the level of attention that we provide the neighborhood. Further, we produce and host over 1,000 community events and activities each year, nearly all of them with a family-friendly nature. And so the proximate, cannabis based smoke, smell, and impacts to those audiences gathering is pronounced. And I think we have a well-rooted policy consideration around trying to eliminate the likelihood that one of our own stores is selling a product in a fashion and in a way that would provide an immediate consumption opportunity proximate to those events and activities. Thank you, Commissioner, for the opportunity to respond.
Can I respond to that?
Sure.
I think that, as a license holder, we are hypersensitive to smoking in public. We're hypersensitive to loitering. We're hypersensitive to, trash in the neighborhood. And we've engaged with the individuals that, so dutifully clean the downtown neighborhood. And I myself have spoken with them just to kind of get a gauge of whether or not our shop has had an impact. And to my surprise, they indicated that they haven't seen an uptick in trash. I think one of the indicators is that we're in a professional environment where people come in, they purchase cannabis, and people who purchase cannabis they live with a stigmatism of smelling like they've been smoking. And so they do what they can to negate that, which means they're generally not smoking when they have to go back to work, when they have to get on the train. And what you'll see from the people who come into the store is that they purchase and they leave. They don't linger, they don't hang around, they don't loiter, they don't smoke in public because they're usually going back to work or they're getting on the train and they don't want to smell like they're smoking cannabis. I think that, Mr. Nichols and I share our empath, our sense that we don't want to be a scourge on the neighborhood. We don't want to detract from the neighborhood. And I, as a business owner, don't want to be responsible for trash in the neighborhood or people smoking in public. And what we haven't seen is any complaints about any of these issues because we're dealing with a population that doesn't want to they're buying cannabis legally. They don't want to break the law. There are people who are selling cannabis illegally in the downtown neighborhood, and that does account for some of these violations, but we just haven't seen any of these complaints related to Pure Oasis.
Thank you, Mr. Evans.
I just have another comment, City of Boston set up this board. In many ways, it mirrors and parallels the Boston Licensing Board, and I am also chair of the Boston Licensing Board. The licensing of cannabis mirrors the licensing of alcohol in many ways. It's not exactly the same. We are allowed to put reasonable conditions on licenses, like this no sale of nips and singles at package stores, if the licensee agrees to them. I can't force it on them. There are many places, every time a new package store license comes before me on the alcohol side, I ask, would you agree to sell no nips and singles? Majority of them say yes, some of them say no. I don't force a condition on a place. They might have bought inventory that included nips and singles. I take that into consideration. To me, this is different. You voluntarily, it makes me feel like you would have said anything to have gotten the bid's approval and never intended to do this. You're not here today apologetic. You're here like, give me some more time. I should be able to do what I want to do because 3 blocks away somebody else does, but that's its own ecosystem. And we're looking at you and where your license is situated. So to me, it sounds very insincere that you gave it 2 weeks. You never came back to the board and asked permission for reconsideration. You went and did your own thing without even talking to the bid. And now you're just basically like shoving it down our throats that you're going to do this until you can figure it out. So please submit, if this is an economic issue, please submit that stuff. I'm happy that you have all these anecdotes about what your opinion is about trash and litter, but we're the regulators here. So I do believe you went about this the wrong way. And you've taken up a lot of this board's time and my staff's time with the complaints that have come in about this, trying to figure out a solution. Instead of coming to the board and asking us to work with you, you've just ignored us to the point we had to send the police out. So with that, I have no more comments. I'm going to ask the other commissioners if you have anything else to say. And if not, we will move on.
Thank you.
All right, seeing no additional comments from the board will take this matter under advisement. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will move on to our transactional hearing. I will call each item in the order it appears on the agenda. I will then ask who is present on behalf of the proposal before us. The first 4 items are amendments to already approved establishments. So they will have 5 minutes each to present to the BCB. And then we will move on to our new license applications, in which they will have 10 minutes each to present to the BCB, followed by questions from our board members. We will then take public testimony, beginning with elected officials or their representatives, followed by the general public. If you wish to testify, please use the link that I will put in the chat. If you already signed up, you do not have to do so again. Additionally, you may use the chat function to request to testify as well. Please wait until the matter in which you would like to speak about is called. Do not use the chat function to give testimony. It will not be considered. Please state your full name, address, and affiliation, if any, when giving testimony. Testimony will be limited to 2 minutes, at which time you will be muted. Additional testimony may be submitted in writing to cannabisboard@boston.gov. The record will be kept open until Tuesday, December 19th at 5 p.m. The BCB does not give any more weight to spoken testimony than it does written. We will begin with the first item, which is East Boston Bloom LLC. The license premise is 71 Maverick Square, East Boston. The license type is a retail recreational cannabis dispensary license. And the amendment is to the operating hours. The current hours of operation are Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., and on Sunday, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. The proposed hours are Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m., and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Julia Sokol, one of the members.
Okay.
And Sierra Grant, attorney representing East Boston Bloom.
Okay, and you have 5 minutes. You may begin.
Thank you. So as you outlined, the hours extension is to extend the hours Monday through Saturday for approximately 3 hours in the evenings, and then on Sunday for approximately 2 hours in the morning and then 2 hours in the evening. It will allow the licensee to be more competitive in the neighborhood. As you can imagine, boutique is very dependent upon foot traffic, and so allowing them to stay open later on the weekdays will get more of the post-work, post-dinner, and also the weekend crowd by offering greater hours on the weekend. There are a number of abutting businesses that have hours proposed that are similar to this, or sorry, hours of operation that are similar to this. So the neighborhood itself is already accustomed to businesses operating at these hours. The directly abutting restaurant and bar is owned by the same family that is 51% owner of boutique. So there's little concern about the direct abutter. Last summer, or this past summer, the board approved East Boston Cannabis Company located in the Orient Heights neighborhood for similar hours. So we're just seeking parity with some of the other operators in East Boston. I will pass it over to Julia to sort of speak a little bit about the business, and then we're happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Julia Sokol. As I mentioned, thank you for your time. We opened June 13th of 2023. So, we're rounding out the year. We've been doing well. I think we have not had any issues. We employ about 15 people, and financially we're struggling, so these hours can really make a difference. As Ms. Grant mentioned, many of the abutting businesses in the square, it's Maverick Square to clarify, are open much later. We have 7-Eleven, which closes at 1 a.m. We have Station Grocery, which closes at midnight. Maverick Smoke Shop closes at 10 p.m. Jack's Pizzeria closes at 10 p.m. Clipper Ship Wine closes at 11 p.m. and Taco Mex closes at 11 p.m. These are all other businesses in the square, which make up the majority of the other businesses. So we hope the board can see where we're coming from and grant the extension. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for the licensee?
I do. I missed when did you start operating?
June 13th, 2023.
So just about 7 months ago, and you want to change the hours?
About 6 months ago, yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about the community process about these hours? How'd you come up with these hours then? And now 6 months ago, you want different hours?
I don't recall exactly how we came up with the hours. I think we thought that would be sufficient to become profitable.
Usually it has to do with what the neighborhood wanted.
Truthfully, I was at the meetings. I can't recall if there was any pushback to the hours. I think we suggested hours that we thought worked, and no one gave pushback to those hours, and those are the 9. I don't think we proposed later and then cut them back, from my recollection.
East Boston Bloom is also like a pre-BCB applicant, so they had established those hours in their HCA, I believe, back in 2018. We came back to the board when the ownership structure had changed, but the hours have been set sort of in the original host community agreement that was signed back in 2018.
All right, so 2018, did you go to the community? Did you have a?
Yes,
game?
yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. I don't
Thank
have any
you.
questions.
Commissioner Camacho, did you have any questions?
No questions.
Commissioner Holmes? Commissioner Soto? Commissioner Smith?
Thank you, Jasmine. No.
Okay. Are there any individuals that would like to testify on this matter, beginning with elected officials or their representative?
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, Connor Newman with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. At this time, the Mayor's Office would like to defer to the judgment of this board. Some background information on the community process. ONS hosted a community meeting on October 26th. There were no abutters present on the call. The applicant then went on to meet with the Maverick Central Neighborhood Association on November 21st of 2023, and that group voted to support their proposal. With that, we'll defer to the board at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Connor. Are there any other individuals that would like to testify on this matter? Seeing no one, the board will take this matter under advisement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next licensee we have is NSAJO Holdings, Inc., DBA Ethos Cannabis. License premise is 50 Clap Street, Dorchester. The license type is a retail recreational cannabis dispensary license. They are applying to amend the operating hours. The current hours are Monday through Sunday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. recreational, and the proposed hours of operation are Monday through Sunday, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. recreational. This is also a co-located establishment. There will be no changes to the medical hours, which are 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Kevin Bradley, I'm the area manager for Ethos, Massachusetts.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you, board, for hearing us today and taking your time. So with this location, just a little background, we opened 3 years ago in January 2021 as a medical only facility. In February of this year, we applied and were approved for our recreational license. Since then, we've just seen demand grow in that area, and where we're located, we have retail shopping and restaurants and bars around that area that are also open till 10 o'clock. And we're just one of the biggest complaints we hear from our customers is it's tough to get through traffic and to get to us to be able to purchase product when they would like to. So we're not making any requesting any changes to our medical license. This is strictly for our recreational license. We also went to our local community group and we attended a meeting there, and we had overwhelming support from them. And for the 3 years that we've been open, have built great relationship with our neighboring businesses, and have had no issues in the time that we've been operating as medical or recreational. So that is the request at the time, and I'll take any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Chairwoman Joyce, do you have any questions?
So just confirming for the record, you've been open and operating for since January 2021.
As a medical facility, yes.
How long on the retail side?
I can give you the exact date. It was February 3rd, 2023.
We're getting so many of these change of hours. These places haven't even been open a year, so it makes me pause. That everyone's coming back to change their hours. And I don't necessarily think it's a good thing. So just want to get those facts down. Thank you.
Commissioner Camacho?
No questions.
Commissioner Holmes? Commissioner Soto?
Just a quick question. I noticed in the letter from the McCormick Association that they had asked questions and that they were answered in their approval. Just curious what some of those questions were.
A lot of them were similar to what the board was. What was the reason for this change? What made you guys want to do this? And I think, parking is a challenge in Boston. I think our peak hours are when everyone gets out of work, and a lot of times you drive up and there's just not availability to pull in, so people try and come back a little bit later. And I think that when we talked to them about that, and we've had a great relationship with them from the time we've been open, and they've been very responsive and supportive of our business. And we're just trying to, provide a service to our customers that they look for in a time that works for them. And again, to Chair Joyce's point, a lot of dispensaries are at 10 o'clock now. We're one of the later ones we're one of the earliest closing dispensaries currently for recreational. in our area. So we were just looking to make sure that we're able to compete and provide a opportunity for our customers to shop on their time. And it's consistent with the local retail with the South Bay on one side of us, and then the Dorchester Brewing and Cigars on the other side. A lot of those businesses are closing at 10 o'clock. And I think it just allows us to provide more time for our customers to be able to get in, especially with the parking constraints in Boston.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Smith?
Thanks, Jasmine. No, I don't.
Okay. Are there any individuals that wish to testify on this matter, beginning with elected officials or their representative?
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, Connor Newman with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. This time, the Mayor's Office would like to defer to the judgment of this board. Some background information on the community process. ONS hosted a butters meeting for this proposal on November 8th. The NOAA butters were in attendance for that meeting. And then, as the applicant mentioned, they went on to meet with the McCormick Civic Association, which voted to support the proposal. With that, we'll defer to the board. We're unaware of any particular concerns at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Connor. Are there anyone else that would like to testify in regards to this matter? Seeing no one, the board will take this matter under advisement. Thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
All right, the next matter we have is Underground Legacy Social Club LLC. The license premises 1379 to 1385 Blue Hill Ave, Mattapan. The license type is a retail recreational cannabis dispensary license. The request is for a change of ownership interest. The licensee is seeking approval to add investors to acquire various percentages of the ownership. The Underground Legacy Social Club LLC. The licensee will remain the majority owner. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Isaac Hampton on behalf of Underground Legacy Social Club.
Okay, Isaac, you have 5 minutes. You may begin.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to appear before the Cannabis Board, esteemed Chairwoman Kathleen Joyce and Commissioners. Quite simply, we are looking to amend our current equity ownership agreement by adding 2 additional investors to our license. The investors are being brought on to provide financial as well as construction know-how, if you will, being in the industry. I'm a Boston equity applicant as well as a social equity applicant at the state level, and I will maintain majority ownership percentage.
All right, thank you. Chairwoman Joyce, do you have any questions?
Thank you. I don't have any questions right now. Thank you.
Commissioner Camacho?
No questions.
Commissioner Holmes? Commissioner Soto? Commissioner Smith?
Thank you, Jasmine. No.
Okay. Are there any individuals that would like to testify on this matter, beginning with elected officials or their representatives? All right, seeing no one, the board will take this matter under advisement.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, the next matter we have, the applicant is the Heritage Club LLC. The license premise is 116R Cambridge Street, Charlestown. The license type is a retail recreational cannabis dispensary license. And the request is to amend their operating hours. The current hours are Monday through Friday, 10:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. The proposed hours of operation are Monday through Wednesday, 10:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. Thursday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. Saturday, 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Hi, Phil Silverman. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So again, Phil Silverman from Vicente, and Nikki John from the company is here. Just, quickly, the company has been open selling since September of 2022. I guess I've heard a number of hearings so far today. I think it's all sort of a similar concept in terms of wanting to be more competitive, and customers, wanting the option of coming in at, either in some cases earlier hours or later hours. So, we're not a lot different than that. It's kind of, to be honest, in my practice, I'm seeing it all over the state. Everybody wants to respond to the customer demand that's hoping for these longer hours. So really, that's what we're seeking to do. You know, there is a liquor store next door that's open till 11. There's a bar next door that's open, I think, till 1 in the morning. So it's not totally out of character for the neighborhood. And Nikki, maybe if you can for a second, if you want to just talk a little bit about your outreach and who you've gotten support from.
Yep, and this will overlap with the next application, but we had a community outreach meeting and we brought up the delivery and the change of hours then. And I also had a separate meeting with the Charlestown Neighborhood Council, and they voted unanimously to support the change of hours. And then, yeah, that's about it for outreach. I have a letter from BECMA and Mass EON, which was sent to the board as well.
Happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you, Chairwoman Joyce. Do you have any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Camacho?
No questions.
Commissioner Holmes? Commissioner Soto? Commissioner Smith?
Thank you, Jasmine. No, I don't.
All right. Are there any individuals that would like to testify, beginning with elected officials or their representatives?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Sean Breen with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. A community meeting was held for the Heritage Club on November 6th. It was well attended. Since that time, this office has received 0 letters in opposition and 8 in support, including one from the Black Economic Council of Massachusetts. As previously stated too, the Charleston Neighborhood Council did vote to support it. They're going to be sending in a letter as well in the coming days. With that, we defer our judgment to the board.
Thank you, Sean. Are there any individuals that would like to testify?
Madam Chair, Kevin Gilnack from Equitable Opportunities Now. We submitted a letter that was referenced. I just wanted to echo our support. We're at a critical juncture, particularly with the delivery industry coming online, and I know that will be the next item on your agenda to discuss. We're already pretty far into a very short exclusivity period, and we're really encouraging all cities and towns to partner with their equity businesses to help get delivery up and running and set reasonable restrictions, and appreciate you and your colleagues on the board considering our feedback.
Thank you. Are there any other individuals that would like to testify? All right, seeing no one, the board will take this matter under advisement. All right, we will now move into our new license applications. These applicants will have 10 minutes to present to the board, followed by questions and then public comment. The applicant is the Heritage Club, LLC, DBA the Heritage Club. The proposed license premise is 116R Cambridge Street, Charlestown. The license type they are applying for is a courier license. The proposed hours of operation are Monday through Wednesday, 10:30 to 9 p.m. Thursday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 11 p.m.
They literally, and I'm gonna jump on our.
Thursday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. Saturday, 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. This is an equity applicant. They initially filed the application on July 24th, 2023. They filed with Inspectional Services on August 28th, 2023, and they held a community meeting on November 6th, 2023. There is a buffer zone conflict with another cannabis establishment. Before I begin with the presentation, I will ask Shakia Scott to read into the record the equity certification.
Thank you, Jasmine. Good afternoon, everyone. Our office was able to certify the Heritage Club LLC as an equity applicant through the documentation submitted by the applicant, Adeniki John. Adeniki John is 75% beneficial interest holder of the Heritage Club LLC, meeting the 51% ownership interest threshold set forth in the ordinance. Ms. John meets the following criteria: a person who has resided in an area of disproportionate impact as defined by the Cannabis Control Commission for at least 5 of the past 10 years. Ms. John submitted copies of residential leases and utility bills establishing residency in Boston from 2013 through 2015, as well as Quincy from 2015 through 2018. The geocoder address search tool used by the CCC to determine areas of disproportionate impact confirmed that the Boston address provided by Ms. John is located in Census Tract 10104 and designated area of disproportionate impact pursuant to CCC guidelines. Additionally, Quincy, Mass as a whole has been designated as or by the CCC as a community of disproportionate impact. She also meets a person who is of Black, African American, Hispanic, Latino, Asian, or Indigenous descent. Ms. John self-identifies as Black, African American, and provided her birth certificate and driver's license. She also meets a person who has been certified by the CCC as an economic empowerment applicant or social equity applicant and has or is a resident of Boston for at least one of the last 3 years. Ms. John provided her social equity applicant approval letter from the CCC dated 6/26/2019, and she also provided a lease and current electric bill certifying residency in Boston from 2021 to the present. Are there any questions about this certification?
Seeing none, thank you, Shakira. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Again, Phil Silverman for Vicente. If it's possible, I'm just going to do a brief presentation, and if I can share my screen, does that work?
Yep, you may.
Fantastic. All right. And can everybody see that?
Yep, you're good.
Awesome, thank you. All right. So again, we're here for a delivery courier license. Sorry, having a problem with my computer. All right. And again, this was also combined with the hours, but you've met Nikki John. Nikki's been operating since September of 2022. Company's doing well. It's always seeking to be more competitive. And that's why really we're here in terms of seeking the extension of the hours that we talked about before, as well as this delivery courier license. The operation, it won't change a lot. If you take a look to the right, the only real change in the facility, and it's an existing room, which is an office, and that's where we sort of, we monitor the vehicles. There's dispatch that goes on from there. So it's really a minimal change from what we're doing, to add this license. With parking, we've got, we would dedicate 4 spaces that would take on the delivery vehicles. Again, I'm not sure we start using 4 vehicles. Quite frankly, I think it'll be more like 2. But that's how we plan to store the vehicles. In terms of the practices, you've got to verify ID. You've got to go only to a person's residence. Same packaging and labeling that you're used to seeing with retail. Again, if the marijuana is undeliverable or refused by the customer, it comes right back to the facility. We have to staff the vehicle with 2 agents at all times. These are, vehicles that there's no markings on them. They're very discreet, and all agents wear body cameras. Product and cash security, I don't want to belabor this because it's the same product and cash security that you see in any retail in terms of having the vault, seed to sale tracking system, etc. Again, everybody's got to be 21 years of age and older. Again, same security provisions you're used to seeing. The employment, same wages and benefits. We expect to add 4 employees to do this. So, it creates 4 jobs, which we think is obviously important for the community. And again, same diversity and inclusion plans. Nikki's here, can answer any questions you may have about that, but it's all in line with how the company has been operating, as I mentioned, quite successfully. And we do purchase 30% of the products from other economic empowerment and social equity vendors or women-owned vendors. So, we're involved in the community and trying to do the right thing and be a good neighbor. And obviously, the diversity and inclusion aspect is a part of that. So if there's any other questions, happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mrs. Chairman Joyce, do you have any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Camacho?
So how many more net jobs will this create?
It will be at least 4 because we have to have the 2 drivers per car, and we're expecting about 2 cars plus the dispatcher. So depending if we end up with starting with 1 car and then growing from there, it could be a max of 5, but at least 2 to 3 to begin.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Holmes? Commissioner Soto?
Is there a geographic radius for the delivery zone?
So we don't have an exact one set, but we're not allowed, there are obviously all the places that the state does not allow you to deliver to. So it has to be a residential address, no universities. And then in terms of distance, we're looking at anything that we can get to in 15 to 20 minutes. That's kind of the mark where if you go beyond that, you might not be able to make money, but we don't want to not necessarily on a slow day be able to deliver to somewhere that's 30 minutes out so that we can fill those hours.
Cool. Thank you.
Commissioner Smith?
Thanks, Jasmine. Hey, in your presentation, in your hiring plan, you said 20 to 30 people. Where are you now in terms of that?
Yep, we have 22, so we're right there in the middle. And I'm happy to report that we're over 51% minority, about 50% women, 25% Charlestown, and growing. So a lot of our employees give us referrals, and that's kind of how we're finding our team.
And then the quarry?
And then none with a quarry so far. We've tried, but it didn't meet the CCC's qualifications so far.
So you're adjusting somehow to attract people?
Yep, and we're still posting. We're making sure we're posting it on all different sites so that people hear about it. And we do have one fair a year. So we've had 2 so far, and we'll have one again next year to let people know.
And so you're thinking for this delivery to add 4 or 5 more, you think?
It'll end up being, 4 to 5, but ideally we'll start with 1 vehicle. So the 2 drivers for that vehicle.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the commissioners? All right, we'll move to public testimony, beginning with elected officials or their representatives.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Sean Breen with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. Community meeting was held for the Heritage Club on November 6th. It was well attended. Since that time, this office has received 0 letters in opposition and 8 in support, including one from the Black Economic Council of Massachusetts. The Charlestown Neighborhood Council also voted in support and intends on sending in a letter saying as such in the coming days. With that, we would defer our judgment to the board.
Thank you, Sean. Are there any other individuals that would like to testify? All right, seeing no one, the board will take this matter under advisement.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next item we have, the applicant is Curaleaf Massachusetts, Inc., DBA Curaleaf. The proposed license premise is 25 Winter Street, downtown. The license type is a retail cannabis dispensary license. The proposed hours of operation are 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week. This is a non-equity applicant. They initially filed the application on January 11, 2023. They filed with Inspectional Services on November 22nd, 2022, and they held their community meeting on April 6, 2023. There was a buffer zone conflict with another cannabis establishment. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good afternoon, Jasmine. Pete D'Agostino with 10X Strategies.
All right, you have 10 minutes. You may share your screen and begin.
Before I start, Jasmine, do you want me to introduce the rest of the folks or just introduce them as needed? What was your preference?
Just whoever is going to be speaking.
Okay, for now, that'll be me. So with that, I will share my screen and get started. Thank you, Chairman Joyce and members of the board. Pete D'Agostino, 10X Strategies on behalf of Curaleaf. Jasmine just went over what we're here to talk about today, so I'll continue forward. Really jumping into it, I think one of the greatest discriminators for Curaleaf is their diversity, equity, and inclusion. They are setting the standard for the cannabis industry here and across the country. So we'll go through those goals, and we hope the board will ask us more questions about it after our 10 minutes. Goal 1 really establishes our demographic representation by group. We've provided to the board, as you see here, how we're going to track that information, and we've committed to an annual report reflective of our performance against those goals. Excuse me, I skipped over one. Goal 2 is to provide basic skills training available to management employees. I think this is unique to Curaleaf. They have a Cura Campus, which is an in-house interactive training platform. It really provides a resource to further professional development for our team members. Some examples of that are their emerging leaders. These are just courses that are available to employees. The emerging leaders, the mentorship program, We've provided to the board how we're going to track that information, and also we will provide an annual report against that tracking. But this is unique to Curaleaf, and I think something the board hasn't seen before. Goal 3 is provide annual anti-discrimination harassment training. We're provided to the board here a list of the courses that are taught. We've also provided how we're going to measure our attendance and performance against this goal, and we've committed to providing an annual report to the board relative to Goal 3. Goal 4, I don't think the board's ever heard this one. I'm really excited about 420 new cannabis brands, suppliers, advocacy groups from underrepresented communities, veteran women, LGBTQIA+, disability, minority-owned businesses by 2025. This is a huge initiative that they're doing nationally, and we really hope to get the opportunity to speak more to that during the questions. All of this falls under Curaleaf's Rooted in Good initiative. The foundation of that is diversity, equity and inclusion, social equity, and sustainability. We do that with strategic social partnerships through Women Grow, Black Farmer Fund, and One Pulse Foundation. Also included in the Rooted in Good is the Cure Force, which is the workforce development group, as well as Supply Change, which is the 420 by 2025, which is a really exciting initiative. We've provided a website for the board to review additional material for the Rooted in Good information. Also included in our diversity and inclusion programs is Employee Resources Group. These are employee-led, self-directed, voluntary groups. We've listed the groups here for the board. We've submitted to you previously: Curaleaf Cares, Curaleaf in Color, Family Leaf, which is working parents, Women in Cannabis, really good employee-led groups. The objectives of these groups really is to support, we've provided all of them to you, but the two I like to highlight: support global diversity and inclusion and serve as a resource when needed to the company, as well as support managerial effectiveness, leadership development, and communication with employees. We think this is a really unique program that the board may not have seen previously. We've also provided the open door policy just so the board had it to review. I'm happy to discuss it further if need be. Something that I know this board, having been before you many times, talks about is ethics and compliance hotlines. Curaleaf has that for their employees nationally. It's through a third-party company. Employees can report in anything they want confidentially or anonymously. It's at their discretion. And the real big takeaway here is that Curaleaf's committed to maintaining a culture where open and honest communication is the expectation and not the exception. And I think this goes a big way towards that. We also provided the board some of the awards that Curaleaf has received as it's related to their as it's related to DEI programs. Some local initiatives, food insecurity, as we know, is a huge issue. Curaleaf's donated more than 10,000 meals and $100,000 to organizations fighting food insecurity, including the Friendly House right here in Massachusetts. They've also worked with Mass Cultivated, providing $100,000 in donations, which is a jobs to jail training program. And they've additionally supported the organization's record expungement clinics. So they are incredibly dedicated to their DEI programs. Moving right along here to the location, I think everybody knows 25 Winter Street. It's the old CVS right downtown. I think it's important to remind the board that Curaleaf started here in Massachusetts. This is where they began. And they've gone on to become one of the most experienced operators in the country. And they want to invest in Winter Street area because they believe it's an opportunity to invest in home and in a part of Boston that needs investment in security infrastructure, storefronts, and importantly, a good corporate partner that's here to stay. Just as an overview, this is a location for those that may not be familiar with it. We've also provided a floor plan that we're happy to discuss. The big takeaway here for the board is that all of the queuing can occur indoors. We aren't going to have people waiting outside. We can service the customers appropriately. We have a large vault area that prevents having multiple deliveries a day or something like that, which I know as it relates to this area, the board has not seen floor plans able to actually facilitate the business. And we're happy to talk about that as well. We do understand that we're outside of the required buffers with the exception of the half-mile offset from another retail store. We're aware of that, and we're hopeful to discuss that with the board today. The store is located in a primarily commercial street with some residential units above. It's in a typical downtown commercial location. We think a big topic of discussion with the board will be our distance from schools, social services, and treatment centers. It is important to note that we are outside of these buffers. We know this is an important topic. We hope to address it with you through the questions, but we do ask that the board, or we do think the board could make a reasonable consideration related to the positive impacts of a legal cannabis store doing business in the neighborhood. As it relates to public transportation, we sit equidistant between Park Street and Downtown Crossing. This is maybe one of the most accessible retail stores in the city. Great accessibility, great public transportation. There's not on-site parking here. As you know, this is a walking street, not a driving street, so that wouldn't be relevant here. 28 team members, 50% Boston residents. We've previously talked about the employment plan for minorities and women. We're happy to take additional questions on those. The 50 residents, we are going to prioritize residents from areas of disproportionate impact. I think that's an important thing, and we're happy to talk about how we're going to do that. Individuals with criminal records, the goal is to have at least 10% of the team members with past drug convictions or a parent or spouse with a drug conviction. Curaleaf already participates in programs like Elevate Northeast events and Education Inc. They fund a Elevate Northeast Scholarship Fund. They're already in this space doing a lot of things to help folks with prior convictions, but they certainly, of course, will work with the City of Boston, including the city's Operation Exit program and the Mayor's Office of Returning Citizens. Benefits, wages and benefits. I know having been before the board, you often ask what's the difference between part-time and full-time. We've laid all of that out for you here in our submittal. The minimum wage certainly would be nothing less than the Boston Jobs and Living Wage Act, or ordinance rather. All the benefits are listed here, and we're happy to get into those more, and they were in our submittal to the board as well. As it relates to community outreach, this has been one of the most substantial community outreach that I've been part of. We were actually able to get 5 letters of support from direct abutters who are also building owners. So while we understand there's concerns in and around the neighborhood, the people on Winter Street, many of them are showing up to support this. We also submitted a petition of support from people who live and work in downtown, and we think that's an important distinction. Community engagement. We have, this is 2 pages long. This is the first page of meetings we've done, and this is the second page. We're really proud to say that we've done over 16 direct in-person or Zoom meetings with all of the key stakeholders, neighborhood associations, residents. This has been an extensive engagement. We've also had dozens of other emails and calls with all the groups listed below. And then moving right along to security, we have in we did an on-site site visit with BPD and others. We came up with a security plan. This is what it looks like in writing. This is what it looks like on the map. We hope that the board will want to learn more about this plan that we've come up to provide security for the neighborhood. On-site personnel will conduct regular comprehensive patrols as well as third-party security during the opening period. The security will be done, physical security will be in accordance with the regulations. Protecting youth from accessing the product. No one under 21 is allowed in the store, period. Transportation of product and money will all be done in accordance with the regulations. And we're happy to discuss that further. And with that, Madam Chair, I will say that I think there's a real opportunity for a great cannabis company to come in and move the needle in a neighborhood that needs the investment. And I think Curaleaf has the demonstrated performance here and across the country with their DEI and their commitment to their neighborhoods to really help move the needle on Winter Street. We hope the board will consider that. With that, I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Pete. We'll move to questions and comments from our board members, beginning with Chairwoman Joyce.
Thank you for your presentation. I'm just going to jump into, it feels like the elephant in the room. You barely talked about your location. And I don't have much to say. I just want to remind everyone, we have a new commissioner. This board had 2 equity applications within the same vicinity. I'm not even going to say general vicinity. One on the same street was equity, we rejected it. And one on West Street was equity and we rejected it. And you didn't address the half-mile buffer zone either. So those are my comments. It sounds like a great company. But to me, the location is something you glossed over, and I don't see anything there that I could even get into a debate with you about, because it's on the same street as when we rejected that was equity.
Madam Chair, I appreciate the comment. I think we submitted a substantial buffer statement response to the board. The 10 minutes is incredibly challenging to present all of the facts, but there's been a lot of interest in this area by cannabis companies. I think that's because there's quite a bit of customer demand that could still be addressed here. And as it relates to the other applicants that had previously been denied, I think there was more to those denials than simply their location. They were new companies, they were undersized properties, and I think there's a lot for the board to consider here as it relates to why this company could move the needle on Winter Street and the experience they have to address some of those concerns that we've heard from the residents that maybe other applicants didn't quite have the experience to do. And we're happy to talk more about our buffer response that we did provide to the board. It's just hard to do it in the 10 minutes, as you know, but we're happy to answer any questions relative to why we think it may be appropriate and for the board to consider this in light of other people not getting approved. We still think there's an opportunity here for a good cannabis company to come in and really make a difference.
Commissioner Camacho?
Yes, thank you. In your goal number 3, you have a list of classes or workshops on a variety of topics on equity. Who will be classes for your staff? Who will be teaching these classes? What entities or institutions involved?
I'm just, Commissioner, I was just trying to bring up which, because we have a couple of different education.
It was goal number 3.
Yep, goal 3 was the Cure Cannabis. Yeah. So that is if you look, we talk about, the anti-discrimination harassment training. So that is done by the company itself. And we have on the call with us, who I think may be a very helpful person, is Raheem, who runs the diversity, equity, and inclusion for Cureleaf. So I think he may be able to address who does the training, but that's all done in-house by Cureleaf. So if you have a further question, he can certainly speak to that.
No, that's good. Thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Holmes? Commissioner Soto?
Not at this time.
Commissioner Smith?
Thank you, Jasmine. Goal number 4, you want to do business with 420 new cannabis brands?
Not necessarily new, but 420, and it's not just brands. So, and hi, Commissioner Smith, good to see you again. Good. It's cannabis brands, ancillary suppliers. So it could be people who supply glass or merchandise or whatever the case may be, advocacy organizations, and specifically, as it relates to this 420 companies, these are specifically underrepresented communities. So it's not just 420 of anybody, but they're really focusing in this initiative on women, veteran, disabled, minority-owned, LGBTQIA+. That's the pool of the 420. So while they may do business with many others, those are the 420, and it can come from different walks of life. So the key takeaway, I think, on goal 4, and they're trying to do that by 2025, which is a huge initiative. And I think the key takeaway on the 2025 initiative is the entire intent is to create a pathway to sustainable and tangible economic benefit for businesses that are owned by a diverse range of individuals. So it really, truly is to pull more people in. And, this is just something that has been important to this board is, how do we do something beyond just the store? And this is a massive initiative that maybe only this company and maybe a couple of others in the whole country could even do. So hopefully that answers your question.
Appreciate that. And then in terms of the location, in terms of what Chair Joyce was asking.
Yeah, so
how will you, give me one second, how will you different? Okay, so you may be a more experienced company and whatever, but you're still selling cannabis, trying to on Winter Street.
Sure.
How are you different? What's the
that's a great question. And I think the answer is that this company has the experience and just so you know, they already are operating in these downtown environments in other cities across the country. And I think what makes them different is One, the level of community outreach that we have done is unprecedented by another applicant in the downtown. We have gone to neighbors and learned what the issues are. And we've heard from them. We understand how we can be a part of this neighborhood. In our neighborhood security plan that we unfortunately had to glaze over, we talk about how we're going to improve neighborhood security that's beyond just our store. The other thing too is when we talk about how Curaleaf integrates into Winter Street, you know, I read the letters that the board received from people who are opposed, and what we're hearing time and time again is that there's an existing issue here on Winter Street. And this company is going to be, one, they're going to fill a vacancy. They're going to make a significant investment in a storefront. They're going to provide additional security to the neighborhood. And all of those things in combination with what the bid's doing down there and others, it's going to move the needle on Winter Street. And you need an appropriately sized facility, which this is. You need an operator that has worked in these downtown environments in Miami and Chicago and different places, and Curaleaf has. And Commissioner, those weren't the applicants that were before this board before. Those were undersized properties with new operators. And so this is going to be, if to the extent the board allowed it to move forward, this would be a partnership with, we would hope to work with the bid. We've communicated with them at a high level throughout the process. We understand their opposition, but notwithstanding it, we think that this board has talked about how do we get an experienced operator with a strong commitment and demonstrated performance to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how do we put them in a neighborhood where they can help move the needle in the neighborhood? I can't think of a better example in the city of Boston where that's true than here. This meets what the board has been talking about for years, and I've been before you many times. This is what we've been talking about: an experienced operator, demonstrated. A lot of the DEI this board hears is aspirational or conceptual. We have a company here that has that demonstrated performance. And in addition to all those other things, somebody that is deeply committed and rooted in Massachusetts to this neighborhood and moving the needle. And no one has done the outreach that Curaleaf has done in the downtown that I'm aware of. And no one came up with a neighborhood plan that goes all the way from Park and Tremont down to Washington and Winter. No one has done that. I'm happy to bring that up and take you through it. But no one's done that. And that's how it's significantly different, quite frankly. I think we've really worked hard to differentiate ourselves in a lot of ways.
Any additional questions from the board member?
Commissioner was muted. He was talking.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Jasmine. How do you feel about the prohibition on the sale of pre-rolls?
We've already agreed to the conditions with the downtown bid. We did see the letter that the bid sent in. We are agreeable to the conditions they included in their letter. Curaleaf's going to be a good partner, and it's a little bit of a leap of faith to put a cannabis store on Winter Street. And I agree. I get it. My office is right next door. But what I can tell you is you have a company that has gone above and beyond in every measurable way by what this board measures to rise to the challenge. And this is an opportunity to move the needle on Winter Street and put a cannabis company in a place where they can help the neighborhood. And I genuinely hope the board will do that. We understand there's existing challenges. Opening a legal regulated store isn't going to add to the challenges, but it very likely could make them better through lack of vacancy, increased security. And let's be honest, there's an illicit market that exists in Winter Street because there's not a legal market for regular people who would otherwise go to a legal store to go into, and they may not walk to one of the other stores. So I've said what I said. I don't want to repeat myself, but I really think there's an opportunity here, and I hope the board will consider moving them forward and see them execute against their commitments. And the bid had requested that the security commitments would be a condition of the approval, and we're agreeable to that because we're committed to doing it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner.
No, Chairwoman Joyce.
Just looking at your board memo, it says additional communications were made to Bridge Over Troubled Waters and William J. Ostagai High School. Did you have conversations with them? Did you talk?
No, we didn't. No, we didn't, Madam Chair. We reached out to them both by phone and by email. We attempted to reach out to them through the city councilor's office as well. I can assume what their position is, although I don't like to do that. We've not been able to meet with them. It's not something, they didn't even deny the meeting. We just didn't hear back from them, but we've had substantial outreach to them. Yes.
All right, thanks.
Commissioner Soto?
So I'm sensitive to the point that Chairwoman Joyce made at the front end of this, which is, with respect to the equity side of the scale, as I leaf through the no pun intended, as the presentation, I did see I there was a noticeable lack of Boston within it, right? It's very much rooted in Massachusetts certainly, and the benefits and the partnerships and associations with different funds and groups, but I saw Western Mass, I saw Massachusetts broadly, right? And given that it's a non-equity applicant, I'm having trouble seeing Boston in it, even within the job numbers specific to Boston residents or Boston residents communities of color, or so I don't see Boston in this, and so I don't know if there's things that just weren't raised in the presentation, but curious to what rooted connections to Boston are there for this proposal.
Thank you, Commissioner, for the question. I think the question might be our strongest point. Those communities that you saw in our presentation is where we are now. So Curaleaf operates in Massachusetts currently, and all of those programs that you saw that are related to other areas in Massachusetts is because that is where they are operating today. And they're going to bring that same engagement that they've had with those communities to Boston. And so I think your question almost highlights how committed they are to the communities in which they are operating today. And we did, just to remind you, on our employment program, we did specifically commit to Boston residents for employment, and we specifically committed to residents of areas of disproportionate impact within the city of Boston. And so I hope the fact that you're seeing everything we're doing in the other parts of the Massachusetts and now knowing it's because we operate in those communities makes you feel more confident that we would bring that same commitment to Boston. We're just not here yet. We're not operating in Boston yet, but we're already partnering with those other communities, as you mentioned.
Okay, because and just for the record, I was basing that comment off of goal number 1, which said to retain Boston team members. That I read that as for the Boston establishment, but not necessarily as residents of Boston. So that wasn't clear to me, and I think it would be helpful to make that clearer, because I still, even when I went through the memo, that didn't come out to me. And I don't want to speak for others, but that was my sense.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. It's under our employment plan, which is a separate slide further down in the presentation where it specifically calls out, and I apologize, I don't have the page number, but if you flip towards the end, it says plan for employment of Boston residents. So that is specifically and directly related to Boston residents, where we're committing to a minimum of 50% of all of our staff being from the city of Boston itself, as well as the prioritization of residents from areas of disproportionate impact within the city. So that bullet point, and we expanded on that in our submittal, is related specifically to Boston residents. So hopefully that bridges the gap between goal 1 and the plan for employment. They're interrelated.
Got you. Okay, that's helpful.
Yes, sir. Appreciate the question.
Commissioner Holmes?
I actually found it. He didn't speak on it in his presentation. It was a safety plan. All he talked about was cameras, but he passed over it. But I see it in the presentation, the whole.
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner Holmes. I'm happy to, I do have the plan available if the board would like to go through it or see it in more detail. It's just hard to cover. And that plan goes from Park and Tremont to Washington and Winter. To do that in 10 minutes is nearly impossible.
I got it. I understand.
And Commissioner Holmes, we also submitted a full PowerPoint to the board that has all the camera views with extensive, so you can see it yourself if we don't have time to do it today.
I got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Any other questions from the board members? All right, seeing none, we will move to public testimony, beginning with elected officials or their representative.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, Connor Newman with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. This time, the Mayor's Office like to defer to the judgment of this board. Some background information on the community process. ONS hosted a community meeting on April 6th, where many residents and stakeholders were present. We heard concerns regarding existing safety issues on Winter Street and what the proposal, how it may impact that negatively. There was also concerns raised regarding proximity to numerous schools in the area and recovery facilities, and as well as concerns related to the concentration of cannabis establishments in downtown Boston. We understand that the applicant has done a lot of outreach and done walkthroughs to attempt to assuage some of these concerns, but it sounds like for several stakeholders, those concerns still remain. We received letters in opposition from the Downtown Boston Business Improvement District, as well as the Downtown Boston Neighborhood Association. With that, we'll defer to the board at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there?
Good afternoon, Madam of the Chair, members of the board, and Ana Calderon from Council President Flink's office. The councilor provided an opposition letter on these proposals, as he has received emails and letters from downtown neighbors, resident business owners, and other important stakeholders in the community opposing the proposed location. Many of them raised concerns about the detrimental impact that the dispensary will have on the neighborhood student population, public safety, public health, and overall quality of life. Over the past few years, the councilor has partnered extensively with Boston Police and community partners to strengthen police and law enforcement presence in downtown Crossing and Winter Street in the particular to combat crime, substance abuse, and illegal activities. Unfortunately, these problems have had a negative impact on the downtown environment, and while Winter Street will benefit from economic activity, the council do not believe a dispensary at this location or any other location on Winter Street is an appropriate fit. Additionally, this location is close proximity to several facilities for at-risk youth, including bridge over troubled waters and the William Ostigay High School, both of which provide critical services for homelessness and vulnerable youth and students in various stages of substance abuse recovery. Having a cannabis dispensary only 2 blocks away can hinder the important work and mission of these important organizations and impede these people progress to overcome addiction. Furthermore, the site is also close to Suffolk University and Emerson College dormitories, where the councilor has shared concerns with our college partners regarding the illegal resale and acquisition of marijuana to minors. Residents in the neighborhood have also noted existing issues of public safety and their concerns that a dispensary will exacerbate the already delicate and sometimes fraught downtown environment. Last but not least, the proposed establishment is within a buffer zone conflict with cannabis dispensary at 21 Milk Street and Piero Oasis at 85 Devonshire Street. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Are there any other elected officials or their representatives that would like to speak? All right, we'll move to those who signed up. The first person I have is David Spriggs.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak in opposition to the Curaleaf application. I'm a Tremont Street resident owning a home on 151 Tremont. I've been employed for the last 6 years at the MGH, a physician. I've spoken to the board in the past several times to oppose cannabis outlets in the downtown area nearby, including those at West Street, the Winter Street, and the Boylston Street applications. My opposition to all of these sites, including the Curaleaf site, is based on the presence of vulnerable populations, traffic conditions, and the concentration of previously approved locations. All of these arguments are included in my letter, which I'm not going to go through in detail, but instead I want to highlight an additional objection related to the lack of Curaleaf commitment to their previous locations, including California, Oregon, and Colorado, and recently even in Western Massachusetts. The Curaleaf website clearly states that their goal for 2024 is to maximize their revenue. Their prior behavior indicates more of a so-called grab and go kind of corporate philosophy, and they'll be here as long as they can make a lot of money. Given the ongoing testimony from the other shops where they're struggling to make money because of hours and other concerns, I have a real concern about the durability of Curaleaf's intentions and their ability to complete their commitments as they described today. They also certainly do not meet any criteria for an equity applicant. And although they have an equity approach, the wealth that will be derived from the Curaleaf application locally is not going to go to Boston equity impacted applicants in the future. And I think that this is not an application that the board should approve. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Nancy Gurlich. Nancy, you're muted.
Right, thank you for allowing me to testify. And I too have testified previously opposing a number of locations. This application is essentially the same as the one that was rejected at 5260 Winter Street, except that this is a more experienced company. It's an international company. It's a better funded company, and it's asking for more square feet. It is clear that the buffer zone violation is significant, and we've had several different numbers as to how many buffer zone conflicts there are, but the two licenses on Milk Street, according to Google Maps, have buffer zone problems with 4 locations: the Devonshire, Broad, State, and High Street, and then there are 3 more that are only 1/10 or 2/10 of a mile further from that half-mile buffer zone. So I think there's clearly an oversaturation of cannabis shops in our neighborhood. This proximity to vulnerable populations is very real. The applicant may indeed meet the letter of the law, but not the spirit of the law. Ostagai High School is still here. Bridge over Troubled Water is still here. Emerson and Suffolk still have thousands of students in the neighborhood, most of whom are underage. There was a comment about secondary sales and the things that the company will do to try to prevent those, but there's no reasonable way to do that. There's no reason to think that this is any different than alcohol. The risk of cannabis to developing brains is real, well documented, and I just don't think it needs to be put front and center in our neighborhood. I also will object to the tourism and the impact on that. The Freedom Trail is a family-oriented destination. Tourism is a very big part of the Boston image and economics. And I don't think there's any reason to change to add cannabis shops along the Freedom Trail. And I think right now there are as many as 7 that are along or very nearby. The police department can't enforce the no smoking rules on Boston Common.
Nancy, that was your 2 minutes. Thank you. The next person I signed up is Shane.
Hi, how are you doing? Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Sorry, my camera's not working. Hi, thanks. I manage the residential properties on 44 Winter Street and 6 Hamilton, and we're in support of this establishment. For one, we support Curaleaf's community program, and any company with a strong background like them to fill the space on Winter Street and provide any kind of investment in the area, we're in support of, and that's what we're in support of them. Thanks.
Thank you. The next person we have is Mary Higgins.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mary Higgins. I'm representing the Midtown Park Plaza Neighborhood Association. Good afternoon, Chairwoman Joyce, Boston Cannabis Board Commissioners. I want to reiterate what Pete had said. He had come before the MPPNA in April and Pete also came back to the member association in August. I'd say one of the biggest reasons that the members could not support this application is due to location. And I know Pete said that there's an existing issue on Winter Street. I think that's an understatement. One of the reasons, the predominant reason the members could not support this is there's just too much criminal activity, public safety issues going on in the Winter Street area. And to be consistent with another applicant that did apply before the board on the same street, the members had to be consistent with their decisions. And I also think the buffer zone is a very important reason that's been overlooked here. There's two shops that are operating within half a mile. And I do think that there is a clear cluster of dispensaries in a very, very close area of the downtown Boston. So for those reasons, we could not support this predominantly again for the location. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary. Are there any other individuals that would like to testify on this matter? All right, seeing none, the board will take this matter under advisement. Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Those were all the matters before the board today. The board's voting meeting will take place next Wednesday, December 20th at 1 p.m. The information to access the voting hearing will be on our website, boston.gov/cannabis. Again, the record will be kept open until Tuesday, December 19th at 5 p.m. Thank you all for attending today's hearing and enjoy the rest of your day.